The keeper of fleeting moments, Elias lived in a house where time was both his obsession and his master. Every room ticked, chimed, or whirred with the synchronized, or sometimes charmingly unsynchronized, rhythms of clocks. Grandfather clocks stood like sentinels in the hallway, mantel clocks adorned every surface, and pocket watches lay open on his workbench, their intricate gears exposed under the glare of his lamp. Elias wasn't just a collector. He was a horologist, a mender of timepieces, a man who coaxed life back into mechanisms that had long ceased to measure the seconds. His life was quiet, measured, predictable. The soft click of his tools, the rhythmic beat of pendulums, the occasional customer dropping off a cherished family heirloom for repair. These were the constants in his solitary world. He found comfort in the certainty of gears turning, springs unwinding, the mechanical march forward. Unlike human memory, which faded and warped, clocks were reliable. They told the truth of the moment. One blustery autumn afternoon, a call came from a clearinghouse handling the estate of a recently deceased eccentric collector. They had dozens of clocks, many in disrepair, and needed someone to assess and potentially purchase them. Elias, intrigued by the sheer volume and the promise of forgotten mechanisms, agreed to visit. The house was dim, dusty, filled with the faint, stale smell of disuse. Clocks stood everywhere, silent witnesses to a life unknown to Elias. He moved among them, a silent dialogue passing between him and the still faces, the frozen hands. There were carriage clocks, cuckoo clocks, marine chronometers, and several impressive grandfather clocks. One particular grandfather clock in the study drew his attention. It was tall, dark wood, unadorned, save for a single, unusual carving near the base. A series of swirling lines that didn't seem to represent anything specific, more like captured smoke or swirling water. The clock itself was in terrible condition, its face cracked, pendulum missing, gears seized. Yet, something about it resonated with Elias. He felt a pull towards its silent, stoic presence. He decided to buy it, along with a few smaller pieces for parts. Getting the grandfather clock back to his workshop was a challenge. Once there, towering over his other timepieces, it seemed even more imposing. A dark, quiet giant. He began the painstaking process of examination, documenting the damage, noting the missing parts. He opened the main panel to access the movement, the heavy door groaning open on rusty hinges. Dust billowed out. He coughed, waving a hand. As the dust settled, his flashlight beam played over the inside of the case, wedged deep within the cavity. Behind where the pendulum should hang was something unexpected. Not part of the mechanism, not a tool left behind. It was a small box, no larger than his hand, made of the same dark wood as the clock, and covered in the identical swirling carvings. Curiosity overriding his usual methodical approach, Elias carefully reached in and retrieved it. The wood felt smooth but cool under his fingertips. The carvings, under closer inspection, were incredibly detailed, almost seeming to move in the shifting light. There was no visible lock or latch, but a faint seam ran along one edge. He pressed gently along the seam. With a soft click, the lid popped open a fraction of an inch. A wave of scent hit him. Not the dust of the clock, but something else entirely. Salt water, damp earth, and the faint, sweet smell of honeysuckle. It was bewildering. He lifted the lid fully. Inside the box, there was nothing. No velvet lining, no hidden compartments, no gears or springs. Just the smooth, dark wood of the interior. But as he looked into the empty box, the faint scent intensified, and the air above the opening seemed to shimmer. Then, like mist coalescing, an image formed within the space above the box. It was brief, instantaneous. A flash of bright sunlight on waves, the distant cry of a seagull, the feeling of wind on his face. Then it was gone, leaving behind only the lingering scent and a profound sense of disorientation. Elias blinked, shaking his head. What was that? His mind struggled to process it. Had he imagined it? Was it a trick of the light, combined with a strange aroma? He closed the box, the click final. The scent faded. He felt a strange mix of exhilaration and unease. He was a man of mechanisms, of observable cause and effect. This defied all logic. He placed the box on his workbench, separate from his tools and parts. He tried to focus on the clock, on its broken movement, but his eyes kept drifting back to the small, dark box. After an hour of pretending to work, the compulsion became too strong. He reached for the box again, his heart beating a little faster. He opened the lid. This time, the scent was different. Wood smoke, burnt sugar. The air above the box shimmered, and another moment appeared, a fleeting glimpse of a crowded, noisy room. The sound of laughter, tinny and distant, like from an old recording. A flash of a woman's face, flushed with happiness, then gone. Elias stared, mesmerized. These were not his memories. He had never smelt burnt sugar and wood smoke together, had never been in a room that felt quite like that one looked. These were fragments of other lives, other times. He spent the rest of the evening opening the box, closing it, opening it again. Each time was a lottery, a splash of rain on a cobblestone street, the chime of a bell, the scent of ink and old paper, the cold touch of metal, a child's hand reaching for a toy, a quiet sigh in a dimly lit room. None of the moments lasted longer than a second or two, and they seemed utterly random, disconnected. He neglected his dinner. The rhythmic ticking of his other clocks faded into the background. His world had narrowed to the small, dark box and the fleeting glimpses it offered into an unknown past. Over the next few days, the box became his sole focus. He set aside the broken grandfather clock and all his other repair work. His workbench was cleared of everything but the box. He documented the moments he saw, filling pages in a clean notebook. He tried to find patterns, connections. Did certain scents correlate with certain types of images? Did opening it at a specific time of day yield different results? The moments remained stubbornly random. A bustling market square, followed by the quiet solitude of a forest path, followed by the sterile white of a hospital room. The people in the glimpses were strangers, their lives playing out in silent, brief bursts of sensation and image. He noticed that the moments often carried a strong emotional charge. Not his emotions, but the emotions within the moment. A flash of fear, a burst of joy, a wave of profound sorrow. It was like tapping into the raw emotional residue of time itself. He became withdrawn, even for him. He stopped answering the phone. The few customers who came to the door found it locked. A handwritten sign promising he would return soon. A promise he had no intention of keeping just yet. His tidy home began to show signs of neglect. Dust, once kept at bay, settled thickly on the clock faces. One morning, a neighbor, Mrs. Gable, a kind elderly woman who sometimes brought him cookies, knocked persistently. Elias hesitated, then opened the door a crack, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. "Elias, are you all right, dear? Haven't seen you around. Just wanted to check." He forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mrs. Gable. Just very busy with a complicated piece." "Oh, a new clock?" she asked, peering past him. "Something like that," he said, feeling a pang of guilt at the lie. He couldn't explain the box. Who would believe him? He quickly accepted the plate of cookies and closed the door, retreating back to the strange reality the box provided. He tried an experiment. He opened the box and saw a brief image of children playing in a sunny field. He focused intensely, trying to hold the image to see more. For a moment, it seemed to hold the laughter of the children echoing faintly in the room. Then it dissolved. He tried opening it while holding an object, one of his working pocket watches. This time, the image was clearer, longer. A man in old-fashioned clothes, winding a similar pocket watch, sitting by a fire. The smell of wood smoke was strong. He felt a sense of quiet contentment emanating from the image. This was a breakthrough. The box wasn't just random. It reacted, perhaps resonated with proximity to objects or emotional states. He began gathering items from around his workshop, things that had passed through many hands, objects imbued with their own histories. A worn leather-bound book, a tarnished silver locket, a smooth river stone he kept as a paperweight. Holding the locket and opening the box, he saw a young woman weeping, clutching the locket. The moment was thick with grief. Holding the river stone, he saw a hand skipping the stone across a lake, sunlight glinting off the water, a feeling of childish joy. He was no longer just observing. He was interacting, albeit indirectly, with the echoes of the past. It was intoxicating. He felt less alone than he had in years, connected to a vast, invisible tapestry of human experience. His own quiet life felt less empty, knowing it was part of this unending flow. But there was a cost. Sleep became almost non-existent. The real world felt gray and muted compared to the vibrant, emotionally charged moments from the box. He rarely ate. His hands, usually steady for delicate repairs, sometimes trembled. One evening, as the clocks in his house began their symphony of chiming for the hour, he sat with the box. He felt particularly melancholy, dwelling on his isolated existence. He opened the box, holding nothing specific, just his own pervasive sadness. The box reacted violently. The air above it didn't shimmer. It swirled like a vortex of dark smoke. The scent was sharp, unpleasant, ozone and something acrid. The moments came thick and fast, overlapping, chaotic. Flashes of fear, anger, pain, shouting voices, crashing sounds, the sterile scent of fear. It wasn't a single moment, but a cascade of terrible ones, a torrent of suffering drawn, it seemed, from the darker corners of time. Elias recoiled, slamming the lid shut. The dark swirling mist above the box dissipated instantly, the terrible sense vanishing. He was left breathless, trembling, the echoes of fear and pain clinging to him like a shroud. He sat there for a long time, the rhythmic ticking of his clocks slowly grounding him back to the present. He had been drawn into the river of time, fascinated by its flow, but he had almost drowned in its depths. The box didn't just hold memories, it seemed to react to the emotions of the person opening it, drawing resonant moments from the past, amplifying the feeling. His melancholy had called forth sorrow and despair. The fascination was still there, the allure of glimpsing the hidden past. But now, it was tempered by a profound respect for the power held within the small wooden box and a fear of losing himself entirely in the borrowed lives. He looked at the broken grandfather clock standing in the corner, the clock that had held the secret. He looked at his workbench, at the neglected tools of his trade. He looked at his hands meant for repairing tangible mechanisms, for bringing order to springs and gears, not for navigating the chaotic currents of time and emotion. The box was not a tool for a horologist. It was something else entirely. He walked over to the grandfather clock. Its dark, still presence seemed less imposing now, more like a silent guardian. He opened the panel again, the hinges protesting. He looked at the dark cavity where he had found the box. Taking a deep breath, Elias carefully placed the wooden box back into its hiding place within the clock. He didn't look inside it again. He tucked it away, deep within the cavity, behind the seized gears and missing pendulum. He closed the heavy wooden door. It groaned shut, sealing the box once more in darkness and silence. He didn't try to repair this particular clock. He moved back to his workbench, picking up a tarnished silver pocket watch left by a customer weeks ago. He opened it, examined the delicate mechanism, his fingers steady again. The ticking of his clocks filled the workshop, a comforting, regular pulse. He hadn't unlocked all the mysteries of the wooden box, perhaps never would. Its origin, its true purpose, remained unknown. It was a keeper of fleeting moments, a window into the past, dangerous and beautiful. He knew it was there, hidden within the silent grandfather clock. The knowledge was a weight, but also a new kind of connection to the vast, unseen history woven into the world. He hadn't found a way to control time, but he had been shown its depth, its emotional resonance. And perhaps that glimpse was enough. Elias picked up a small screwdriver, his focus returning to the intricate dance of gears and springs. He was a mender of timekeepers. He would continue his work, measuring the present, understanding the mechanisms of the now, forever aware of the hidden moments sleeping in the darkness, ticking silently somewhere beyond the reach of hands and gears, waiting to be glimpsed again, perhaps by someone else, someday. The moments were fleeting, but time, in all its forms, kept its steady, relentless beat.